from Detroit, Michigan, USA. In My House, hosted by T. Carlita, where the true stories are told and great music is played.
Welcome to another episode of the In My House Techno Music Show. I am your host, T. Carlita, and this week we are excited to have Detroit's own born, bred, raised Jon Dixon. Welcome to the show, Jon.
Thank you, T. Thank you for having me.
I am so glad you are here. So let's talk coronavirus. That's the news these days. How are you living in the COVID era?
I'm good. I'm taking it one day at a time. I mean, I've had a chance to spend a lot of time with my son and wife. So I've been home more. I've been in the kitchen more. It's given me a chance to really sit and even focus in on making music a little bit differently and just thinking of some newer ways to approach things. So it's in addition to the bad things you hear in the news, and after losing a few family members to the virus, it's just a reminder just to stay home and to stay safe, but at the same time trying to use this time in a positive way, you know.
So in the midst of this stay home, stay safe thing, and now they have this new injunction order that you can't travel to Europe. So what are you planning? What are you preparing yourself for, like, after this virus, as Trump says, disappears? What are your plans for what are you going to do in the case you can't travel anymore? So how are you going to maintain yourself? What are you doing to offset that, I guess you could say?
Well, I'm always comparing music to food. Like I consider chefs, like great chefs, artists. And for a lot of great chefs, they don't cook or come up with new recipes because they have to. They cook and come up with new recipes because it's in them. And whether they get to serve it for anyone or it's just something that they're making for their own household, it's something that they just have to absolutely create, right? And so I kind of look at myself as the same way. It's like, whether I can travel or not, like I have to create music. And if I don't, I get really, really weird. And, you know, I start to become a little off balance because I've been doing it for so many years, even before knowing that traveling was an option. Like prior to all of that, prior to meeting Mike, making and creating and arranging music is just something that's a part of me. So even after this whole virus thing is gone, I still feel like for me as an artist, or, you know, it's my responsibility to create just for myself first. And then, you know, if whatever I'm creating, if I decide to share it with the world or not, then I will. But for me, this whole virus doesn't put a stop to my creativity. And I've spoken to some friends, and some people have been a little uninspired, and that's cool, you know, I get it. But I've definitely been just trying to channel a lot of different deeper level of creativity within myself during this whole time. So I've been able to do that. I might speak about one piece a little bit later on in the show.
Okay.
But
and you know, it is a lot to process because, you know, I think what makes, I guess, I wouldn't say you're underground artist, but you still have the aesthetic of that underground mentality, because that's where we come from, right? And I mean, we've survived everything. So I think for a lot of people who really travel, and that is what they do on a regular basis, I think those are the ones that are really probably trying to scramble and figure out what they're doing now. Because I know a lot of posts, I watch a lot of social media posts as a journalist, and a lot of people did lose their, you know, their train of thought or whatever. And I think that's normal because the COVID impacted, this is one episode where it affected the entire world. It's not like a little town in small town somewhere or a little small country somewhere, because there's things that's going on in countries that's going on right now that we don't know about, and it's been going on, right? But COVID is like all hands on deck. I'm taking out everybody.
Yeah.
So you really have to find your way. And yes, music really helps. It's healing. It helps. And speaking of music, you have some music coming out soon.
Yeah.
We talk about that. But before you talk about that, let's talk about Mike, because I know everybody that interviews you wants to know about Mike. What is that? Do they think
Yeah.
that you got the know-all on Mike Banks? Is that what it is?
I think so. I mean, like, I don't know if a lot of people know how close we are and how much time I've actually had that I spent around Mike, especially off road. Like I moved into the submerged building about a year after I met Mike in 2007 when I started traveling with Galaxy to Galaxy. And during that time, when I moved in, just smaller things like we would take these little trips to IKEA as I was kind of building out my room, and he let me borrow a lot of his equipment. And some of it I liked, some of it I didn't. But what I liked about it was he never told me that this you need this piece of gear or you should use this or you should use that. It was kind of me figuring out what I liked, what I could use, what I felt comfortable with. And just like when it came to approaching and making the music, it was never a this is how you make a house track. This is how you make a techno track. This is what you want to do. Like the early education I got, Mike would take me to TV Lounge on Fridays, and we would go hear Al Esther and anybody else that was DJing. But
Wait, did you just say Mike would go out? No, I'm just kidding.
yeah,
Don't nobody think he'd go anywhere. He's
yeah,
like, now you know what? It's funny, and I'm gonna let you finish that story.
uh,
Mike Banks, really, if you had to compare him to somebody, he would be the Mojo. He's the
yeah,
Mojo of techno. Mike
yeah,
could be in the room,
hmm
and you wouldn't even know he in the room until he opened his mouth. It's like Mojo. They used to
yeah,
say Mojo used to do that. Mojo would be right there, sitting in the back corner somewhere, and would never say nothing. He'd walk in and walk out. And that's what Mike does. It's like, oh, okay.
yeah.
All right, back to your story.
Yeah, he was very uh, instrumental, I think, in the history of this music, and not just that, but uh,
Absolutely.
when anybody is calling themselves or wanting to get into making this music, you have to understand where it comes from, and you have to understand how it functions. I think a
Mhm.
lot of times, a lot of the younger generation, a lot of the DJs or up and coming producers, they want to make the music and then they make it in the comforts of their home, but they never get a chance to really hear it on the dance floor and see if it works. So like Mike would tell me, like pay attention to the tracks where people leave the dance floor, or pay attention to the tracks where people come out on the dance floor, and just watch how they respond to the different tracks. And
Mhm.
you know, he would always tell me a DJ's record collection is like a toolbox. You
Yep.
know, not every track that I make or that you give a DJ or whatever doesn't need to be a hammer. So they might need a drill, they might need some tape, they might need a couple of screws. And so that taught me, like I don't have to always try to make something that's going to be an absolute hit. I might just want to make something a little bit mellow. Uh,
Mhm.
I might want to make something that, like back then, back in maybe 5-6 years ago, my dream was always, okay, I'm going to be able to make something that Carl Craig or Derek May would play. And so that was my when I'm making this music, I'm like, I'm going to be able to make something that I know they would play. But at
Right.
the same time, I'm also thinking, because he would take me to TV Lounge, when I would make certain tracks, I would think, okay, when in the DJ set will they play this track? Is it like an opener? Is it something in the middle? Like Derek May told me one of the tracks of mine he would play is kind of like towards the end of the night, or like as he would break things down and kind of rebuild it back up. Certain tracks he would use, and I wouldn't even think about it like that. When you're doing
Mm.
4-hour sets,
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
just can't be high energy. You got to
right.
break it down, give the people a chance to kind of go off the floor, use the bathroom, whatever, take a break before building it back up again. So it's definitely an art to making the music and how you see it to function.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, now I try not to focus so much about where I want the track to be placed throughout the night. I just try to make it, going back to the whole chef and food thing. I believe it's two types of food, just like it's two types of music: good food and bad food. So
That's it, period.
there's good
How
music.
you get it done. Everybody makes spaghetti, but everybody makes spaghetti different.
Exactly. It's two types of music: good music and bad music. And so I
Mhm.
just aim to make good music. Everybody might not like it, and that's fine. But if I think it's good, and you the audience can think about whatever or say whatever you want, that's fine. I'm fine with criticism, but I stand by what I make,
Right.
and I know it's good. Otherwise, I wouldn't
And
put it.
you have been blessed to have been mentored by two legends, really, on
Yeah.
both spectrums of this culinary art of music that we can call it. I mean, you've got that drive hard, get it tenacity, resistance
Yeah.
from Mike, but then you got that real jazz, strong jazz, which is an art form within itself with Marcus Belgrave. Tell us about your experience with him. How did you guys even connect?
So I met Marcus in 2001, in the summer of 2001, which is a track on the EP I did for Planet E on Marcus Belgrave tribute EP. I have a track called Summer of 2001, but that's where I met Marcus. There was a camp that the DSO ran in partnership with Oakland University, and Marcus was over a jazz big band in the city. It was known as the Detroit Symphony Civic Jazz Orchestra, or CJO, we will call it. And my high school band director at the time told us about this program, and he told me I should sign up. So I signed up for it, and it was a two-week jazz camp. And I remember we hit traffic in the morning on 75, and it was the first day of camp, and I was just so nervous because I didn't feel like I was even qualified. You know, it was my first year in jazz band that year in high school. Really, that was my first year having band in general. I was in 11th grade. Like, I just played keyboard in my parents' attic prior to that. Like, I never had any type of public performance or, you know, being in any other band classes prior. So with that 1 year of experience in high school, I was just nervous. I didn't know what to expect. So I was hoping that, you know, with this 75 traffic, we would have got there and it would have been too late. So we get there, and I look over at the keyboard, and there's two folders, one for me and one for the other piano student. No other piano student. So I'm just like,
oh. All alone on your own, eh?
All on my own, yeah. So I can't remember. And then when I walk in, they were doing this crazy warm-up exercise that I still show students to this day, and it was just ridiculous. Everybody that was in that band, regardless of their instrument, they had to play this exercise, and I could not get it. And as you're playing it, Marcus is changing different notes on the board, so that it's this continuous exercise, but it's ever revolving, right? So I couldn't get it. So during the lunch breaks, we would have an hour lunch break around 12 or so. And during that whole first week, Marcus would spend 30 minutes with me during that lunch break, and he would just show me what it was I couldn't get, which was how you would play these specific chord changes and how they were built. And that's when I realized that I'm a hands-on learner. Like, if you verbally explain it and I'm taking notes, I might be able to get it. But if you sit down and you show me what it is that I'm supposed to do and how it works, then I got it. So the second week of camp, I was able to eat lunch with everybody else for the full hour. And I remember going back to high school my senior year, and everybody's like, "Oh man, like, what happened to you? Like, where'd you learn how to play?" I'm down like, Marcus. And so Marcus invited me back to that program that they have it during the school year as well, the civic program. So he invited me back, and based off of that, he would have other performances in the city, and he would call me for those. One of the first ones I did was Noel Night, and this was back in 2002, I think. And I met a lady named Gia Kai, who a lot of the city knows, and she would call me back for numerous Noel nights, but that being one of them. And we would have rehearsals at his house, and actually found a folder with a bunch of music that Marcus gave me. A lot of it he written, and I had to decipher his handwriting, because anybody that knows Marcus,
worse than the doctors.
It was up there with it, you know. But once you knew how to read it and
He
knew
plays music. What does he have to write? You know.
Yeah. So it, you know, small things like that, but you know, it was a lot of life advice that I learned from him as well.
So did you know, like, you were a student, you were in the jazz band at school. Had you known Did you know who he was before? Like, did you know that he was going to be teaching this course? Did you know who he was? Or did you have a clue who he was? At
You know what?
least?
It's the same thing happened when I met Mike. It wasn't until like the more I knew him,
Okay.
the more I started hearing about
Okay.
how many others knew him and the things that he had done, you know. And
Okay.
it wasn't until back when I did the interview, or the second interview, because there was the first one I did for a jazz history class I had at Wayne State, but the second interview I did with him for the Planet E track that I released. It was a 30-minute interview, but I had to chop it down so that it could fit, you know, over the course of a 7-8 minute track. But it wasn't until then that I really found out like just how much he had done and how involved he was with the community in Detroit and the different
Right.
performances that he had. And everybody that plays jazz in Detroit that's, I would say, my age or older, 35 or 36 now, 36 or older, you knew Marcus, even if it was you met him on a gig and you shook his hand for a minute. Like, everybody knows Marcus, and I had no idea like he knew everyone and he was as impactful as he was. And like even to this day, like I would meet different people and they would say, "Oh yeah, I knew Marcus, and I met him once, and we did this." And everybody has all of these stories, and Mike is kind of the same way. You know, it wasn't until we were in Switzerland, me and Deshaun, on our first gig at the Montreux Jazz Fest, and we walked into a cafe and we heard High Tech Jazz, and we were like, "Oh, hey, that's us." And then one of the girls was like, "Oh, which one of you is Mike Banks?" And I was like, "Wait a minute."
Mike is not even here.
And not only that, but Mike told me he never been to Switzerland. So why did you know who he is? And we've never, you know, so that's when I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Let me go back and do my research to figure out who these.
You know, it is funny though, because we live here, you know, and that's what they say. When you're at home, you take it for granted. It's like Motown. Motown, you know, techno. Oh, we live here.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got to go to Europe, it was funny because I went to this, it was Cologne. I was in Berlin, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And we went through this record shop and I had my UR t-shirt on that day. Oh my, I ain't thought nothing about it. You know, you wearing a different t-shirt representing home. You excited to be in Europe for the first time. Right. So I'm making sure I got all the impactful shirts that represent Detroit, you know, the D, and you know, in Germany, you gotta wear UR. I ain't thought nothing about it but a t-shirt. We walking through there, and this kid, I swear, he damn near chased us down because I had this shirt on. He brought this, it was the High Tech Jazz CD, and he wanted me to sign it, and I'm like, no, I'm just wearing a shirt. He says, no, you from Detroit. You know how they try to talk English with their language? Yeah. So it's like, oh my God. So he's like, no, you are. I'm like, okay. I just signed my name, and then he was so happy, and he was like, yay. I'm like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That is
the first time I came to Detroit was 1958, and that was with Ray Charles. And at that time, Detroit was flourishing, and it was a great place to be. I didn't live here at the time, but there was so much activity going on here that this was one of the favorite places in the country. There was 3 places I really wanted to even
You are In My House, hosted by T. Carlito, where the true stories are told and great music is played.
A new law, Public Act 33, was recently enacted, which will help low-income taxpayers avoid property tax foreclosure. This law is referred to as Pay As You Stay, or PAYS. It will allow those who are exempt from property taxes due to low income the ability to remove interest, penalties, and fees from their delinquent taxes and to pay their balance over a 3-year period. Even though our office is currently closed to the public, taxpayers who qualify will be contacted by my office. Their payment plans will be processed through the mail and with the assistance from our nonprofit partners. Please visit us at treasurer.waynecounty.com or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com for more information. And remember, we're here to help.
Hello, this is David Humphreys, aka Hump the Grinder, the producer of Hair Wars, and I'm encouraging all the hairstylists and barbers in Detroit and throughout the state of Michigan to stand up and be counted. Please register for the 2020 census today. We need everybody to be counted because the state of Michigan depends on federal funding for several things, including education, school lunch programs, the infrastructure, the healthcare system, small businesses, and more. So let's do our part. Spread the word and stand up and be counted. You can register online at www.2020census.gov. Thank you in advance from the Hair Wars family. Be counted.
Stop the spread of germs and help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases like COVID-19. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze with a tissue, then throw the tissue in the trash. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces. Stay home when you are sick, except to get medical care. Wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Visit cdc.gov/COVID-19 to find the latest safety and prevention information.
So between these two greats, there's Jon. So at any point, where did you find yourself musically meshed between these two? Because you got it from one and then you came along a little bit later and got it from the other. So you had already been under this influence. Now you got to get this influence, but then this Jon right here in the middle. So how did you find yourself, or how did you work Jon in there? So, you know, a lot of people say, oh, when I grow up, I want to be like him, or I want to be like that, or they tend to make music that, oh, you could tell it's from that, or you could tell it's from that. How have you been able to still keep Jon in place?
I actually know when I found my sound, if you will.
Okay.
And I can tell you what music came immediately after that.
Okay.
So in 2014 and a couple of years prior to that, I was Mr. Nice Guy, you know, like anybody that would say, hey, I'm working on a project, I want you to come and work with me. Okay, cool, you know. So I would always kind of put me and, you know, Mike was always pushing for me to have a label and for all of us to start our own labels. I would kind of push it to the side, but at the same time I kind of felt I wasn't ready, right? But I was always involved with too many other things here or there, and, you know, one thing, before you know it, half the year is gone and somebody else is saying, hey, I'm going to do this project, I'm going to do this project. So I'm always helping somebody else out instead of, you know, working on my own. So Timeline had a gig over in Portugal in 2014. And I remember one morning at breakfast at the hotel, myself, Mike, and Cornelius, we had this long talk. Really, they were talking and I was listening, and it was about a 3-4 hour conversation. And
oh yeah, Cornelius, that's another interview. We didn't even have time for that one. Go ahead.
And you know, as much as I wanted to go back up to my room and enjoy the ocean view, I mean, I was listening to them talk, and the points that they were making, it was valid. And as soon as I got back home, I made the next wave, which is off the Timeline EP on Forever Forward. It's the A1 track. And after that, I made the Still Pondering, which is the B1. And that's when I played it for Mike. Mike was like, okay, that's it. Now you got it. He said, I don't have to teach you anything else. He said, now you got your own formula. So that was really the moment where hearing him tell me that I got the confidence to say, okay, now I feel that I'm ready to produce and make music without consulting him, you know, during the process. Like Mike is still very much involved in my process. His involvement now comes at the end where I say, hey, Mike, I want you to hear my next EP, and then he'll listen to it, he'll critique it, you know, give me a couple of notes, maybe some things to change. But for the most part, it's always 95% of it is, that's it. It might be a few things, maybe bring this down or maybe lengthen this part, but never anything.
Tiny tweaks, not just take that. You know how Mike is, take that back.
Okay, yeah.
Don't bring it to me until you got it right.
Yeah, one of the things Mike always told me, and it's something that even now it was brutal, but it was honest. Like I have to try to be more honest with a lot of younger people I meet that want me to hear music. But Mike would always tell me, "I heard that before.
Mm,
Go back, try again." And it was as hard as I was working. I'm making it thinking that this is what I've heard before, and it was what I heard. But he was about, and as Detroit artistic scene is, it's not about what's current now. Like the things that's current and popular now could have been made a year ago.
that's so.
And even now in the moment, I'm trying to make music that's different for now as well as for the future. So don't get so caught up and stuck in what's popular now. But I appreciate that so much because again, just like him or your Carl Craigs, if you will, like these people who've heard and experienced so many various types of music.
Right.
It is true. And it's like, if you like, why wouldn't you listen to somebody that you're in the same building with across the hall from and he says, I heard that before, go back and make something different. And it makes me think that way now when I'm in the process. I don't want to make something that you've heard before. And I think that's why a lot of people globally flock to Detroit and they might not be able to identify it, but it's because we have access to so much great art in the city, especially musically, from hip hop to gospel to techno to rock to blues to Motown to jazz to everything, it's all here. So we've heard a lot of music before.
Yep, that's
I
true.
think we're all trying to reach and create that next genre, maybe without even knowing that we're trying to make a genre, but that's just how I think our brains function because we've heard so much great music
Right.
up until this point. Now we're trying to figure out what that next sound is.
And then as a artist, a musician as yourself, you do want to make those timeless classics. I mean, you look at Timeline that Derek did. Oh my God, that's the anthem. That's the anthem for so many things. High Tech Jazz. I love that. Wind Chimes. Oh my God, it's just so beautiful. So you want to make those timeless pieces because those statement signatures, you want to make those statement signatures because those are the ones that people are going to always remember you. Like your new stuff is going to be good, it's going to be great, but think about, like we said, we know all this music, so you think of Marvin Gaye.
Yeah.
What's going on is like signature, and it's still relevant to this day. So as a musician, you do have to make those things that are new and different, and the sounds are new, but you have to make it where it's palatable to the listener because that's the only way it's really going to make it, and that's an art within itself. And you have done very well, and listening to your story, you look at that timeline within yourself, like now everybody thinks they can plug in this. I got this little Ableton, I got this little, I got this, I got whatever they use, drum machines, patches, and whatever. I got all this electrical stuff, and I can make a hit, and I'm gonna be the shit right now. And you just listen to your story. You went from high school to 2014. That's a lot of work that you put in there just for Mike to say, you finally got your sound. You see how long it took you to get there? And that's what we have to make sure that people watching this, and this is why getting you guys from behind your work and talking, because the same way you were mentored, you're talking to somebody right now and they're gonna be like, damn, I thought about it that way. So it's always good. You got to call and receive. You got to send and receive, because if you always sending and you're not giving it back or getting it back, then it's dead. So it's like the circle of life is so true.
Yep. And I can tell you something else that's helped out in how I approach and making music. And that was when I was in high school. I was in the symphony band as well, playing French horn. And so where I was located in the band, I was right in the center. So I played fourth chair. I wasn't good, but
okay.
Yeah, what was cool about it was like there was a trombone section behind me. I had the other three horns to my right, some other additional instruments. So it kind of curved around me. And my high school teacher, Mr. Quick, he was in front of me, right? So it trained my ears to, like you have to, when you play an instrument in a section, you have to blend with your section, but then you have to blend also with the entire band. And what it taught me was a couple of different things, like one of them being just to listen to how all the various instruments work to create this one sound. So even though I'm here and I'm in the orchestra, there's 30, 40 other people here as well. And we're all creating this one sound. You know, that was one of the things. The other thing, like when I'm playing keyboards live, you know, same approach, whether it's with Timeline or whether I'm playing jazz at Motor City Wine, it's like, I want to be able to blend with everybody and not to, you know, I'm John, so I should be the loudest one, or it's my band, so I should be over. And it's like, no, it's about blending, you know. So people who say, oh, you know, I want to be a producer, I want to produce. If you look, you know, again, going back to this whole chef thing, you can't say, hey, I want to be a chef, but then you go and you buy microwavable dinners, you know, expensive microwavable dinners, you microwave it and you say, here, I prepared this for you. It's like, well, did you make it? It's like, no, I didn't. And, you know, I feel like because of the technology that we have now, it's so easy to quote unquote produce. But if you're a producer, you should be making something from nothing. If you've got your, like you said, if you've got your Ableton or your drum machines, or even if you don't have your Ableton, like I think that's what the beauty of Detroit Techno was. There were no computers back then. So you can, like, people then were creating something from nothing.
Yeah,
and I try to tell a lot of these guys that send me music, it's not about what gear you have. If you limit yourself to just one keyboard and a drum machine, or just limit yourself to one keyboard that has a sequencer in it, could you still create music? And the answer to that would be no, because they don't know how to play. Now, I'm not saying you got to know all your theory, but, you know, Carl plays keyboard and guitar. Mike plays keyboard and guitar. Derek May plays. Like, these guys play. They might not play good enough to go play at Baker's. Maybe they can, but they can sit down at a keyboard and figure out what it is they need to do, you know. But now, because of technology, the programs do it for you. You can go in and program what key you want to play in. Or what.
You mean I can make a record? No, just kidding.
Yeah.
No, y'all, I'm good. I'm good on the journalist side.
Exactly.
I'm good.
I've got nothing against that, but I felt like, okay, you know, times are changing with this whole technology thing. I feel like I'm kind of repeating myself in my production process. Let me make something to capture these changing times, where the song actually includes musical time changes. And I want to create something that you wouldn't be able to recreate, or no program can figure out what chords or rhythms that I'm creating. And so that's how the times have changed track.
So are you subliminally segueing to the upcoming release? I heard that time change, and they're not just kidding. Look, let's take a break. I have my show, I have a historian. He lives in the UK. His name is Stevie Anderson. And I asked him, I said, okay, I'm interviewing John. Is there anything that you want to know? So he did respond. So I'm going to come back with his question, and then we're going to, and I love your forever forward. I love that. You know, your past is what it is, but that name, I'm getting chills. I already know how you got it. That's like, woo, that's good. That's real good. So let's take a break while I get into this spiritual chills about that forever forward. That is so, that's powerful, man. That's so powerful. Just saying that name is powerful. Okay, let me pay some bills. I'll be right back.
You are in my house, hosted by T. Carlita, where the true stories are told and great music is played.
Hello, this is David Humphreys, aka Hump the Grinder, the producer of Hair Wars, and I'm encouraging all the hairstylists and barbers in Detroit and throughout the state of Michigan to stand up and be counted. Please register for the 2020 census today. We need everybody to be counted because the state of Michigan depends on federal funding for several things, including education, school lunch programs, the infrastructure, the healthcare system, small businesses, and more. So let's do our part. Spread the word and stand up and be counted. You can register online at www.2020census.gov. Thank you in advance from the Hair Wars family. Be counted.
A new law, Public Act 33, was recently enacted, which will help low-income taxpayers avoid property tax foreclosure. This law is referred to as Pay-As-You-Stay, or PAYS. It will allow those who are exempt from property taxes due to low income the ability to remove interest, penalties, and fees from their delinquent taxes and to pay their balance over a 3-year period. Even though our office is currently closed to the public, taxpayers who qualify will be contacted by my office. Their payment plans will be processed through the mail and with the assistance from our nonprofit partners. Please visit us at treasurer.waynecounty.com or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com for more information. And remember, we're here to help.
We are back with Jon Dixon, and we just kind of like getting to know the man behind the machines, the man behind the music, the man behind the label, and who is Jon Dixon. So I hope that those of you that have been watching from the beginning are enjoying our conversation, and those that you haven't, when we're done, you can rewind it because it's on the website for 7 days straight, and then it goes in the archive, so you can catch up. Okay. So the show I have a guy, I've never met him. He lives in the UK, and we connected through the show, of course. So he's like my historian. He's really helped me understand a lot of the history and the culture of the music, and he is like top notch. His name is Stevie Anderson. So I let him know that I was going to interview you today, and I said, is there anything that you want to know? So this is what he said.
Are you working on an album? Secondly, how important is it to continue the legacy of Derek Jamerson through the Timeline Project?
I think if you look at the Timeline Project in itself and the first Timeline group, if I'm correct, it was Gerald Mitchell, DJ Dex, Mike Banks. I think I'm leaving somebody out. And then it kind of evolves, right? So if you go into 2011, when I became a part of it, it was myself, Mike Banks, Deshaun, and then we had DJ Sakari. From there, Sakari left, and then we had Manny Gonzalez. And from there, Mark Flash came in. And we're kind of taking a break right now. But if you look at what a timeline is, you have these different things that happens at different points. And I think more importantly than when the next Timeline Project comes or when is the next Timeline show, there may not be a next Timeline show. It might not be a next Timeline album or project. It might be another Timeline project. It might be another Timeline show. Who's to say, right? But what I think is what's most important is when you have your Jamesons and you have this music, something that's so important. What's more important than any of that is the music that's being made. And that's Timeline is one of those tracks where, you want to ask the composer, just like Jaguars, like, what were you thinking when you made Timeline? Like, what was going through your mind? And you almost want to ask them, like, after it came out, like, where do you think this track is going to go from here? And that's something that I don't think Jameson knew that it would be like a Detroit staple. Like, whether I didn't know who made the track, but whenever I heard that track, I've always associated it with Jitten. So when I finally heard it, I'm like, wait a minute, why is this track so slow? But that's
right. It's the Jit anthem, man, and now played. I'm like, huh? That ain't the same record. You are so right. That's where it became popular in the Jit circuit. That's right, and that's Detroit all day. Exactly.
So I try and look at the whole timeline thing just as these time stamps. Even in our lives, or like anybody who's ever attended a timeline show, just try and think about your life as, maybe in 2015, I saw a timeline, and I think we had a show in Barcelona or something maybe, or I can't remember, but think of it as these moments where things happen. Even now, this whole COVID season, like 10, 20 years from now, this is going to be a stamp, in our timeline of life where it was like, man, let me tell you about
2020.
or what I was going through in 2020. And that timeline stamp could be something like, there was this one record by such and such that really helped me through, or there's this movie, or there's this poem or quote that I read, or there was this dish that I made that just made me look forward to being able to go back out and see friends and family and hug my sister who I haven't seen and lives in such and such state, So it's different ways that you can look at it, So for me, I think it's important to continue in being a Detroiter. It's important to continue whatever art that you're involved in, especially if the ones before you are from here. So like if you take Detroit techno, and even jazz, or music period, like Detroit has such a rich musical history, but me, since I'm in this specific genre, I have an obligation to continue, not just to continue this music because I'm involved with it, but it's my right to take who I was mentored by and take the tools and things that they showed me and the 32 years of music experience that I have, and to elevate this music as high as I can take it, so that the generation after me, I can say, okay, here, I've taken it as far as I can go. Now you use the technology and hopefully some of the musicianship as well, because we are from Detroit. So I'm hoping all of my producers are out there in the world will get you an instrument and go on YouTube and learn a couple of notes and stuff. It will help, but I'm hoping that after me, I want to just be able to look back and say, I've done not just all that I could in terms of making and creating music, but also I've done all that I can to help out that next generation and to give back and to contribute into moving this music forward and higher.
It's like a track. It's a track team, the relay. You got the person who starts you off to kind of give you that leverage. You pass the baton. And so now you got the baton, and while you got it, while you have it, you have an obligation to forever forward, right? You got an obligation to move because that person did their part. Now it's your turn. So now it's your turn to keep going. And then when your time comes, you're teaching students now. So you don't know who in that classroom of kids that you teach or adults that you teach, you don't know who might just take that baton and be like, I got it, coach, I'm gone, And it's just like with Marcus Belgrave and Mike Banks with you, they gave it to you in spoon-fed increments because you weren't ready. But then when you got it, like, okay, son,
I'm gonna go,
go on and move it. Now it's your time. Get it going.
Yep.
But it's interesting with the Jamerson situation, and it's interesting because I didn't know he wrote it either to be honest. I was like, what? And when I found out was when I started this show in 2005, 2014. And when I found out he made the song, and then when I put it on the record player, that's not, now you old school, right? When I put it on the turntable, and I played it at the regular, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, and then my son is a jit dancer. He's like, no, mom, you got to speed it up, pitch it up. I was like, oh, that's the song I know. I'm like, damn. And then Gerald Mitchell was on the show when I first started. He told the story about Timeline, how he did it like so fast. He made it so fast. Like Gerald had went to work, came back, the song was done. I was like, wow. Yeah. But it's unfortunate that that Jamerson didn't live to understand. I don't think the whole time that he was making music, he never understood what he was doing. He just did it for the love of what he did. He didn't care. He just did it because he loved it, and I think a lot of musicians don't understand their greatness because they just do it. It's like you just do it. It's not like you looking for all this extra kudo to do it. You just do it because it's your passion, it's your love. And when you're passionate and you love, like you said, we got that passion in us. And because we have that, that's why, we're going to get it right, or else we're not going to do it at all, to be honest.
It wasn't until high school that I found out you could get paid playing music.
You thought it was free all the time?
I just thought, I remember going to see Earth, Wind, and Fire once at a concert, and I saw Stanley Clark when I was in elementary school. I just thought these people were able to go out and play, and they did it because they loved it. And when you looked at their faces and how much fun they were having, you know, I didn't get into music to be able to perform it, but I've always done it because I enjoy it. And I wonder, or not even wonder, because now it's actually happened, you know, with during this whole COVID thing. But it's like, if any artist wasn't able to go out and tour and perform and make money, would they still do whatever that art is? Like, if you
Good
couldn't
point.
get paid doing a DJ gig, would you still DJ?
And I think a lot of them are really like with this COVID, everybody's on equal playing fields now. So I think everybody's asking that question. Or those that need to get paid or desire to, it's like, how am I going to get paid now? Because everybody, you know, a DJ per se doesn't have the talent or the skill to even make a record. They wait on y'all to make it.
Yeah.
So everybody's on equal playing field now, and everybody's going to have to figure out who they are,
Yeah.
you know, who they really are in this thing, because the fanfare days is over. The stadiums aren't filling up no more. You know, so, and the Facebook likes aren't what you thought they were, because they're going to cut you off because you playing other people's music anyway. So that's crazy. So we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about the new stuff, what's coming out, and inspirations and all of that, and that'll be real quick. So we'll be right back with T. Carlita and Jon Dixon.
You are in my house, hosted by T. Carlita, where the true stories are told and great music is played.
Stop the spread of germs and help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases like COVID-19. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze with a tissue, then throw the tissue in the trash. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces. Stay home when you are sick, except to get medical care. Wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Visit cdc.gov/COVID-19 to find the latest safety and prevention information.
We are back, and we've had a great conversation with Jon Dixon. For those of you that are just tuning in, once the show is over, just hit rewind and you can catch up where we left off at. But for now, let's talk about what's new, what's coming, what's on the horizon for Jon Dixon. What's happening? What's coming out?
So my next EP entitled Times of Change is out July 31st. That's the official release date. You can go on my Bandcamp page and you can pre-order your vinyl record now if you want. Backstory behind that title, Times of Change. So it comes from a quote by Eric Hoffer, and the quote goes, in times of change, learners inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with the world that no longer exists. So what I like about that quote is like it's so many different things that I liked and that I took and unpacked and approached with the making of this EP. One of them being that, you know, the learners inheriting the earth. Like, I looked at that as anybody who's willing and open to accept change and to adapt to the times that are changing. They're the ones that will be able to conquer whatever it is that's in front of them, you know, whether it's how do I deal with this world of COVID? Like, you know, do I just continue to go out without a mask, or do I adapt and wear masks, sanitize, or just stay in, not go out at all? You know, they talk about the ones who are learned, you know, the ones who don't want to learn anything else. They feel, you know what, I'm X amount of age, or I've had this much experience. I got it. I know it. I'm good. I'm straight. But then when things start to shift and you try to take your old ways and approach whatever the new situation is, and it doesn't work, you know, now here you are thinking that you're fitting in, but you're in a world that no longer exists. And those who have changed and are open to change, we're looking at you like this guy is still stuck back in 2019, 2018, 2015. So it was a lot of different things that I took from that quote and applied towards the music making process in this EP. But one of the main ones just being, I named it this prior to this whole COVID thing, but I was just looking at it as, times have changed. Sounds like times have changed. And that was part of my thought process. And they have, from the technology that we're using to make this music, to me almost feeling like a lot of producers don't want to learn an instrument or don't feel that it's quite necessary. So as someone who started out playing at 4, well, how do I show them that, there's benefits to being able to play an instrument? What better way to do that and, by making music and then putting it out? And I think you can hear and tell, hopefully you can tell in my music that, everything you're hearing isn't programmed, or maybe some of it is, but a lot of it isn't. Like a lot of the melodies and bass lines and things like that, I play all by hand. Like I don't use any presets on computers. Like all of the sounds you're hearing come from one of my mini keyboards or synths that I'm programming by hand. And that's just something that I've been doing for so many years. I've just gotten used to it. But there is some positive sides to learning a little bit of music theory, or even just sitting down at a keyboard and going on YouTube and pulling up a couple of videos. You don't have to pay anybody for lessons now. If you have a keyboard, just go on YouTube and type in how to play a basic scale or not, and that's fine. But it's again, going back to the point, it's my job as a musician and as a producer to use the knowledge that I've gotten from Marcus and Mike and so many others, as well as from school, thousands of dollars that I paid to put into this music, and to elevate it higher. So times have changed. New EP, July 31st is the official release date. It's available now on my Bandcamp for pre-order. I've also got some other projects that I'm working on. I'm working on a release with Radio Slave for his label. That'll be out later in the year. I'm also on a compilation that Delano Smith and Rick Wilhite is doing. I think on that same compilation is some heavy hitters. So you got Omar S., Marcellus Pittman, Moody Man is on there, Delano Smith.
Y'all the funk masters. Y'all, woo, that witness. Hold on. I gotta have all y'all on the show with. Well, I might not get Moody Man though, but I gotta get all y'all back. When that come out, can you make that happen?
Yep. I'll send you that post. So I was very honored when Delano hit me up. I'm probably the youngest guy on there. I was like, oh wow, I'll be a part of it, sure. So I'm looking forward to that coming out as well. And lastly, I just want to mention, I started making this piece back in March, where I just wanted to capture this whole season of COVID, if you will. So I started out with, I'm going to make this whole 19-minute piece, but I didn't want to give it a genre. And it's just me expressing how I felt during this whole time, how you see things on the news, like people, or how you sing things from people going crazy over toilet paper to the numbers rising and all of these various countries, the US going from barely any cases to being the number one leading country, to all of the different, Black Lives Matter movements and all of these different police shootings and lynchings to all these riots. I've been capturing all of these different moments from March. And I started it out with the mindset of, let me just start from the top of the year. Like what happened in January, what happened in February, and then March came out of nowhere. And so this piece I'm working on is almost finished. I'm waiting on one more person, Jessica Caremore, to submit me her part. But I've also got some good friends on it. Chris Johnson on trumpet. I've got Dominique DePores on it as well, playing guitar. And then it's a 19-minute long piece, and it's not jazz, it's not techno, it's just pure emotions and how I felt and how this whole thing has felt. Like if I had to put how 2020 has been, and if I had to sum it up into musical terms, like this song would be how my January to June went. So it's
how they say in what do they call that in music theory, a period piece.
Yeah.
They call it a period piece.
Period piece,
So
yeah.
it speaks to how you feel, what's going on, or your interpretation through your art.
Yeah.
So when that's done, so I have this little segment in my show. When it's done, I'm gonna play the whole 19 minutes, y'all, non-stop, no interruptions. He gonna put his little plugs and drops in there for all y'all that's gonna be trying to like download it and steal it. Y'all need to, get his permission first.
Right,
So it will be tagged heavily, right?
Yeah.
Right, John? Right? It's gonna be tagged heavily. But I can't wait to hear it because, it's like the journal, the diary. So it's like your musical diary of what you went through and what you experienced and what you've seen. And that's going to be really powerful. And it would be so nice if y'all could shoot a video later on, once we can go back out in public. It'd be nice to do a video to go to some of those pieces, certain parts. Maybe you can throw a little video piece in there. Give us some visual. That would be nice.
Yeah.
But for now, I'm just excited. I'm happy for you. I'm glad that we were able to connect. Next time we got to get Deshaun on here. You and Deshaun got to come on together. That would be kind of cool because then we can talk about when y'all was young in the basement at the record store. We're going to say that when I have both of y'all together. But you guys have really made us proud. I'm born and raised in Detroit. I was there right in the beginnings of all of this stuff too. And Jamerson is very proud. I know he's looking on us all and just knowing we're, like you said, forever forward. Forever forward. Oh wait, forever forward. Let's talk about that. Where did forever forward? How did that come about?
It came about around 2012, maybe. The name Mike would always kind of mention this phrase, and kind of behind it it's got a couple of different meanings. I've always had in my mind just blending other genres in with Detroit techno, but mainly just in the moment when you're creating, when you're making music or art, is for that moment. And once it's done, once it's released, whatever, just look forward and do something else, do something different. Like always push to move forward, always push to move higher. Don't get so caught up and stuck in whatever the last project or whatever the last major thing was, especially during this time. Like we don't have time to look back, especially if it involves any sort of negativity, let's just focus on what's ahead of us. Let's focus on moving forward. Always move forward from artistic creativity to, now during this time, looking for better days, like do what you have to do now to be able to move forward. And, I'm not trying to fuss at anybody, but if you're out here being reckless, you're not going to have nothing to look forward to. I don't want to say it, but it's like, treat this like, do you want to be alive in the next 5 years? If so, then do what you got to do now so that we can all move forward. That's kind of the premise behind it. Just
you over there getting choked up. I know that has to be so amazing when you get something that's so powerful, and when you think about it, it's something that God gave you, and you manifested it, and it came out, and it's doing good. So I'm proud of you. I'm so excited, and I'm looking forward to everything that you do. I know you sent me the EP, and I'm telling you, the stuff that I just experienced a week ago, I'm in your music. Really, that really, it was so perfect to just hear it unreleased as it is, and it was just the whole key chords and the arrangements of there was one that you had the hint of saxophone in there, and I loved that, and I was like, oh my God. It was so calming, and it speaks to a deep emotion for me. It's going to touch everything touches people differently. But from what I heard, it touched me emotionally. And I don't know if that's because I was vulnerable, but people that listen to music, they listen to music because they are trying to heal themselves. So I really appreciate what you do. I appreciate your work. I appreciate your integrity. And most of all, I appreciate that you represent 313 the way you do, and you take us everywhere you go, and you never forget where you came from, and it's embedded in you. And that you can tell who's born here, and you can tell who's just kind of like hanging out with us.
Let's see now, yeah.
So are there any final thoughts that you would like to say to fellow producers, up and coming? Let's give a final thought to up and coming producers. What would you say to them? What would you like to share?
I have to tap into my inner Mike Banks here.
Okay.
But just be true to who you are as an artist. I mean, it's a lot of people who don't know who they are, and they're trying to figure it out, which is fine. Like, I didn't know who I was as a musician and whatnot, like I said, like until 2015. But don't try to, and I never did it, but don't try to copy or mimic or gimmick your way on to becoming successful by looking at what somebody else is doing and trying to copy that, because who knows what mind frame they're in, and who knows what things they're going through in their lives that allowed them to be able to create whatever type of art they're creating. I think that's so important. It's like a lot of artists, from visual, culinary, music, we're able to kind of go back and draw on some of the things that inspired us. We're able to go back and draw on some of the information given to us from previous mentors. And a lot of people don't have that, and that's fine too. But for those of you who do, or even if you don't, like, if this isn't for you and you're doing it for the fortune and fame, that doesn't exist right now. So you're kind of doing it and you're wasting your time. So I would just say do it, and do it in a way where you can feel proud of whatever art you're making. And once it's out, it's out. So you're going to get criticized about it. It's no longer yours. As I once heard Derek May say, once you put it out, it's no longer, it doesn't belong to you anymore. So if you're worried about what people are going to think, and I don't know, well, don't put it out. But be true to whoever you are. Like if your music is what it is and a lot of people can't get with it, and that's you, hey, I respect you. Put it out. That's your art, so just stay true to who you are as an artist especially during this time and afterwards.
That's right. Okay, well, you heard it. Be true to yourself and do you. And once you put it out there, it's fair game at that point. So hold on to it until you're ready to give it away, right?
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jon. Until we can get together and hug and hit the dance floor again, stay safe, enjoy your family, and keep creating. And I know that creative brain is probably working on something while it's always working. So
yeah, it's moving.
So I appreciate you. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to connect with me today. And I'm waiting on that 19-minute. I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait to hear what you call it too, actually. You give it a title yet?
I think I've been toying around with like 2020, but almost like 2020 vision, and then January through June. So there's going to be a second part to it, because the year isn't over, but it's so much that's happening on a day-to-day basis. A lot of,
I'm telling you, this whole year, look, we're in July now, but that first 6 months, that was enough for the whole year. It's like, can we buy one, get the rest free?
It's a lot.
First half has been one for the record books.
Yeah.
So we'll, as you say, we're gonna go forever forward. We'll reflect and use it, and keep it moving. All right, Jon, this is T. Carlita and Jon Dixon. Thank you so much for watching. And if you are wherever you gotta be, go out, be safe, protect yourself, because you only have one life and you want to live it to the best.
That's right.
See you next time.
Election Day is just around the corner. Tuesday, August the 4th, the In My House Techno Music Show encourages you to vote to re-elect Eric Sabri, Wayne County Treasurer. Eric Sabree has helped to reduce foreclosures by 86% since he's been in the office. He also is a supporter of the In My House Techno Music Show. So the In My House Techno Music Show, T. Carlita, we endorse Eric Sabree for Wayne County Treasurer. Please get out and exercise your right to vote on Tuesday, August the 4th.